Hey everyone, today I have some pretty cool news about a neat little study that was conducted by researchers at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, in conjunction with geographers from the University of Southampton, which was published in the journal Royal Society Open Science. The researchers traveled out to St. Paul Island, a small little spit of land in the southern expanse of the Bering Sea, nestled right above the Aleutian Islands, and right near the edge of the massive, submerged landmass that once formed the Bering Land Bridge. In this remote, barren landscape, the research team extracted a 12-meter-long cylinder of rock and soil called a sediment core, which they then dissected and analyzed. Within the sediment core, they found all kinds of preserved organic goodies, like spores, pollen, diatoms, plant macrofossils, hard animal shells, bones and carapace plates, and even the residues of ancient DNA. They used radiocarbon dating and found that the oldest layers in the core were around 18,000 years old, which means the sediment core tells a story of ecological evolution spanning the most recent 180 centuries. By analyzing the plant and animal species that were present in the various layers of the sediment core, the researchers could then tell what kinds of life were growing here, and which were dying off at certain points in time. Because many of these organisms could only live in certain conditions, it gave insights into what the climate was like at the time. For example, the data shows that around 15,000 years ago, the summer humidity and temperatures increased. Horses that had lived in the region for thousands of years began to die out, and by around 14 or 13,500 years ago, they were almost entirely replaced by the newly emerged moose. The data then goes on to show a massive disturbance to the climate around 12,900 years ago, which is actually part of a global event known as the Younger Dryas. This Younger Dryas period was characterized by sudden rapid cooling that then led to a so-called brief 1,200-year-long ice age. Now, it's not quite settled as to what exactly caused the Younger Dryas, although my preferred hypothesis is that an impactor, like an asteroid, came and smashed into the planet, and it threw up a cloud of dust that led to a perpetual winter, and things only returned to normal when the dust cloud fell back to Earth. There's a sizable amount of evidence supporting this hypothesis, but there's a bunch of other competing hypotheses too. Like I said, this is a prehistorical event that has not yet been fully explained. Although, this is a whole different topic for a whole different day, and I don't want to get sidetracked. So anyway, back to the paper. The researchers say, and I quote, "This new multi-proxy paleo-environmental dataset allows a meaningful reconstruction of the late glacial environmental context across the Bering Land Bridge when humans were first dispersing into Alaska," unquote. This basically means that this information that they're getting from the sediment core is really helping to inform them about what the climate was like during a human migration across the Bering Land Bridge, when there was so much ice formation that the water level was lower and the Bering Land Bridge was exposed to dry air. The researchers constructed a timeline of human migration and human genetic relationships, like between various human gene pools. And they explain how the climate changes across time would seem to line up with a second migration. The researchers point out that two lineages of humans colonized the Bering Land Bridge, or they colonized the New World by moving across the Bering Land Bridge, but that one of them probably came sometime after the other. The first came around 17 to 20,000 years ago, it's a pretty broad time window relatively speaking, and the other, the second wave, came sometime around 14,500 years ago to 13,300 years ago. The researchers say, and I quote, "Human dispersal across the Bering Land Bridge is posited to have been both a push and pull phenomenon. The ultimate push factor was the rising sea level that accompanied the release of water from melting ice sheets, leading to the eventual and complete flooding of the Bering Land Bridge, which accelerated at the beginning of the Holocene, around 11,500 years ago. However, a chief environmental pull for early eastward human and megafaunal dispersal across Beringia may have been ameliorating climate after the LGM, most notably the seasonal changes in moisture associated with deglaciation that created suitable habitats for Northeast Asian hunter-gatherers, along with other environmental changes on the Bering Land Bridge and in eastern Beringia, unquote. So when they say LGM, they're talking about the last glacial maximum, which was more or less the end of the ice ages, when the Bering Land Bridge was submerged and the last little groups of people that migrated across it made their way. You know, this is pretty cool stuff. I'm always interested in these studies that dig into our past and explore where we came from and how we dispersed and colonized this wonderful little planet that we call home.